Welcome, Pewter Report readers and listeners, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius. Mark Cook is along with me. I am John Ledyard. He has his Celsius out and about. I've got mine as well. But this isn't just any Celsius Victory Monday podcast, Mark. This is a Bucks playoff Victory Monday podcast, so it feels especially better, and the Celsius hits a little bit sweeter on these playoff victories. First one since 2002. We get to come on the pod and talk about it, and we get to start looking at and examining and taking questions, comments, criticism, thoughts from fans about Bucks Saints Part 3, exactly the way the Lord intended it to go down, in my opinion. Mark Cook, how are you today? Are you excited about today's show and excited about the Bucks?
I'm always excited, John. I was 32 years old the last time the Buccaneers won a playoff game. I don't know. You're not even 32 yet, are you?
That's right. I'm only 30.
Okay, well, just picture 2 years from now and then add 18 years to that, and that's how long it was for me to go between watching a playoff victory. It's been a long time. So a lot has changed in 18 years, and there's a lot of people that are on this podcast that, number one, may not have even been born, but if they were, probably weren't even Buccaneer fans the last time this team made it to the or won a playoff game. But yeah, I'm excited. It's not going to be an easy game whatsoever. But what we're going to try and do is sneak some Celsius in to the Buccaneers locker room at the Superdome, try and give them a little bit of boost, particularly on defense. Hopefully that'll help, Johnny.
Absolutely. We've got a ton to talk about today. We're going to get to all your comments, your questions, your criticisms, what you want to know. We're going to get to Bruce Arians' comments from today's extremely interesting presser/media availability time. We've got a new Bucks player on the COVID list. Fingers crossed, hoping that doesn't spread and become a problem. We've got a couple Bucks activated from the COVID list. We've got a ton to talk about. It's going to be really fun. It's all going to be energized by our friends over at Celsius. Mark, if you don't know it, Celsius powers active lives every day with essential functional energy. It's great stuff, and the best part about it is this new heat line that they're putting out. I cannot get enough of it. Those who were on the Saturday podcast after the game, they heard me talking about this blueberry pomegranate, and it's absolute flames. I think I've had, this is probably the third one since Saturday. I drank one before bed Saturday night. It is an energy drink, but I have high tolerance, I guess. But yeah, I'm telling you, man, these things, the blueberry pomegranate is my new favorite. I really still have not had one that I dislike. I promise you, if I dislike one, I'm going to tell you all, but I have not had one yet. But these things are great. They're awesome. If you're looking for them, you can find them in stores all over the place if you're in the Florida area, and even if you're not. But really, the best, easiest way to do it, you can go to Celsius.com. You can look it up. You can find which stores they can use their store locator to find which store you want to hit up and go to pick these things up. Or go to Amazon. You can get the variety pack and get a bunch of different flavors. Try them out. But awesome before your workout. I have them in the middle of the day as a little pick-me-up, and helps you stay focused in the workday in the afternoon and stuff, especially I would say this time of year, maybe all time of year. I don't sleep very often, Bucks fans. In case you didn't know, I'm not much of a sleeper. I'm like a 4 to 5 hour a night sleeper guy. So once in a while, when it catches up with me, one of these babies, one of these Celsiuses really help out. So I'm a huge fan of it. The blueberry pomegranate, that's the one you got to try. You can get your hands on a blueberry pomegranate. I promise you, you're going to come away pumped about the results. So make sure you're checking that out. And Amazon, good place to go to hit those up as well. Mark, let's start with Alex Cappa, shouldn't we? And we will get to everybody's questions and comments as well. I see them already kind of pouring into the chat. That's awesome. We're going to tackle all of that, I promise. We do want to start with talking about Alex Cappa, though, because it's a big loss. The Bucks lose a starter, starting right guard Alex Cappa, who probably wasn't having his best game when he went down. But, man, what a tough dude. He went down, Mark. I'm actually going to try and get the play in here for fans to be able to see if I can show them for those who haven't seen. But He went down, Mark. It was right near the end of the half. It was when the Bucs were in the 2-minute drill. They were trying to drive and score before the end of the first half, and they were going in hurry up. And it was a situation where Ali Marpet actually makes a great block and manhandles John Allen. And here's the play here. You can see Ali Marpet manhandling John Allen, pancakes him, but they kind of land on Alex Cappa's ankle there. Alex Cappa tried to stay in this game, Mark, with a broken leg. He got up. He was slow. He was ginger. The guys were checking on him. He literally hops to the line of scrimmage to run the next play, tries to stay out there. And the refs are looking at him literally trying to stand on one leg. And they were like, get out of here. And remember, the Bucs only had one timeout in the half. So he didn't want him to have to burn that timeout, but he wasn't sure he could get off the field probably if he tried. And so he's literally standing there on one leg, and Wirfs and Jensen are like, dude, get out of here. And he is cussing everybody out on his way off the field because he's so angry. And then up the sideline too. So tough cookie, Alex Cappa. He's going to be missed, man. There isn't an obvious replacement for him. Bruce says Aaron Stinnie is going to start. Ted Larson filled in for him and struggled the other day. We already lost A.Q. Shipley to the season-ending neck injury, or career-ending neck injury, I should say. And so the depth is thin and unproven for the Bucs. You've got Stinnie with 60-some career snaps, so it's going to be an adventure trying to replace a guy in Alex Cappa who really had played exceptional football all season long for the Bucs. Was probably better than we could have even hoped for at this point in his career.
Yeah, Alex really came on. Buccaneer fans will remember his rookie year, John. It was dreadful. He was platooning, and he was just bad. He didn't look like an NFL guard when he got here, but I tell you what, between last year and this year, he's really transformed his body, and he looks like that guy that fights in a phone booth. Isn't that the kind of saying you scouts use when you talk about guards? And he's been a tough son of a gun. We know that. I mean, we know he played injured last year, and he would have played. I mean, if he would have let him, he would have said, "Just cut my leg off. I'll play with the stump." I mean, he's just that kind of a guy.
True. Yeah.
And the thing that concerns me the most, and not that I don't think Aaron Stinnie can understand the playbook or physically block people, is just the chemistry that you lose. And these guys have played together pretty much throughout the year. I mean, Donovan missed a game, and Ali Marpet missed 3 games. But Tristan Wirfs has been there, and Ryan Jensen's been there, and Kappa's been there. So that side of the line has really been together. And now you're throwing a new guy in there. And, John, you talked about it a little bit. We were talking during our group text on a couple of those sacks that we had Larson giving up. Technically, PFF, I think, had him just giving up one of those sacks. But, I mean, part of that sometimes just comes also from communication, not understanding what your guy next to you is going to do. And sometimes it's not even verbal communication. It's just from being, in the line of fire with these guys for, a couple years now, particularly with Jensen and Kappa side by side. And, they kind of know what each other's going to do. They don't necessarily have to spell it out and spit it out. They know what they're going to do. That's the biggest thing that concerns me the most. And that the Saints are absolutely 1,000% going to attack that. And, the good news is the Saints' pressure tends to come from the edge rushers, Hendrickson, and also with Cameron Jordan. But it doesn't mean that they can't get up the middle. And as you know, Tom Brady's not a guy that's going to get outside anyway. So if anything, he's going to step up in the pocket. But if Stinnie's getting blown up, that's going to make things a little bit more difficult for Tom Brady to stay clean on Sunday at 6:40.
Yeah, absolutely. You bring up a couple good points there. One of them being the interior pressure thing, and that kind of being like we've said, Brady is he's been great at kind of avoiding edge pressure this season. A couple times this year against the Saints, it was kind of unavoidable early in the first game when they played. Second game, edge pressure really wasn't quite as big of an issue, but the interior pressure was, mainly because of Joe Haeg, who I see many people mentioning. And Joe Haeg has not been really much better in pass protection as this extra offensive lineman. It kind of holds up the defensive line from teeing off a little bit when they go play action out of this 13 personnel or 12 personnel with Joe Haeg out there as the extra blocker, gives a little more protection in that way. But he's been beaten a bunch of times, even in those kind of advantageous situations this year. Chase Young whooped him on one, and Brady just kind of anticipated it and slid to the side and avoided him and threw downfield and completed a pass. And Brady's pocket movement's been terrific. Probably was the best I think that it's been all season long against Washington. But yeah, it's not been great with Joe Haeg, so I'm glad that it wasn't like, oh yeah, we're going to put Joe Haeg in there. I think the Bucks kind of recognize Joe Haeg is pretty limited in pass pro. You want to put his opportunities in pass protection out there when teams are thinking run. And so, but he's been fine in the run game and adequate in that area. And so I think you keep doing that, keep him in his role, and you put Stinney in. Everybody wants to know what's up with Stinney. Like, is he good? He did have 2 reps at the end of the game against the Rams when Shipley hurt his neck and Jensen slid back to center and Stinney came into guard. And on those 2 reps, he was great. He tossed Aaron Donald on one of them, I think. He really handled him. So, it's 2 reps, and I'm pretty sure he's not going to handle Aaron Donald or anything like that. But what is good about this matchup is that the best Saints interior defensive lineman is David Onyemata, and David Onyemata typically rushes over Ali Marpet. He's the one that tore up Joe Haeg when Marpet was out the last time. So most of the time, teams stay consistent with that. They don't move around those guys. Maybe the Saints do move around Onyemata. He's become a really good player, and I think he will mostly be matched up with Marpet. So they can help that left guard spot, I think, or that right guard spot. I think a good bit. I thought Jensen played his best game since maybe early in the season against Washington, which is really a great sign. And Marpet's obviously just been a stud every week. It's a great sign moving forward because they need those 2 guys to be probably really, no matter who you play the rest of the time in the NFC, in especially in that game against Washington, everybody's interior D-line's good. Green Bay's maybe not what they've been in the past, but they moved Zadarius Smith around. Anybody who you play really the rest of the year has a great interior defensive line. So to me, those guys have to be really good. And right now they're playing really good ball. And so I think that's huge when you look at this game moving forward. So let's get to some of these questions from people in the chat. Thoughts on Drew's performance yesterday? Brandon Burkhart wants to know. I'm guessing this is Drew Brees, right? I'm not forgetting a Buck named Drew, right?
No, it's not Bledsoe or
not Bledsoe.
Yeah, or not Nancy Drew. No, it's
not Nancy Drew.
Drew Brees.
Yeah, okay, Drew Brees.
I've heard of him. He's an okay quarterback.
Yeah, I've heard of him. I know a little bit about him. I thought he was fine. I just don't. Again, like, to me, it's all about the scheme. Brees is smart and he throws on time and he gets the ball out and he knows his limitations. He can get through progressions. He's still accurate in that certain range of the field. But again, I just think that I think he's a quarterback that you can defend. It's about stopping everything else. Tim, can you stop the screen game that the Saints do? Can you stop the Taysom Hill package? Can you stop Alvin Kamara in space? There's just a lot to prepare for. Can you stop these end arounds with Harris? Or any of the plays that they run with that little Harris. The dude is like 10 catches on the year or something. He goes out and has 7 against the Bears for 80-some yards. He looks great. They know who to get and how to get him and how to get him involved in their offense and how to get the most out of him. And it's a scheme. That's what it is. Brees it's a la Peyton Manning when they went on that run, won the Super Bowl over the Panthers that year. It's the Saints defense finding ways to dominate games right now. And their offensive line's great, and the scheme's great, and they have all the pieces except really a great quarterback. And Brees is doing what he can, and it's enough right now. I think it's probably their best bet, and it might be enough to get him to the Super Bowl. I don't know if they can win it over the Chiefs or the Bills, but I could see him getting to the Super Bowl with what he's capable of at this point in time.
I noticed you didn't mention the Browns as possible Super Bowl. Come on, give some to Cleveland.
That reminds me,
Steelers.
I was actually gonna wear a backwards hat on the show, and I forgot. Dang.
Yeah.
In honor of Baker. But yeah, that was pretty. Yeah, last night was a little bit tough. I'm actually okay to talk about it if fans do want to ask about it. There wasn't much surprise in it for me.
We talk about Brees, and you make a good point as far as the scheme goes, because again, as good as Drew Brees is, and he's a master in that offense with Sean Payton, nobody runs it better than he does. But let's not forget Teddy Bridgewater was 5-0 in that scheme last year. Taysom Hill, I think, lost one game when he started for Brees. I think I can't remember the exact record, but they didn't exactly collapse. I think actually maybe they did lose a couple in a row. But the bottom line is if Taysom Hill can run that offense, Drew Brees is it's just like putting on a comfortable pair of jeans. This guy can do it in his sleep. I think and I know we'll get into more of the, and you and Scott will do more of the breakdowns in the game, but The more I keep looking at this, the more I keep thinking, number one, you're not going to sack Drew Brees. Drew Brees is going to get rid of the ball, but you certainly can make him uncomfortable. The Bears yesterday had just one official sack. Now, Khalil Mack had another one later in the game, but that one was brought back because of a defensive holding call, so it was negated, so it didn't count. So they got to Brees technically twice in the game. It's just hard to get to Drew Brees because he's just too smart, and he's going to get rid of the ball, and the line does a great job of protecting him. But he's not great when he's pressured. If you can get some people in his face and arms up and things like that, I mean, I think that's going to be the key. I think heavy pressure on Drew Brees is going to be smart. But then you got to play man, because Drew Brees is not going to be able to throw the ball 50 yards down the field over anybody's heads. There's going to be some yards after catch, but I still believe the yards after catch against this Buccaneer defense comes more when they're playing a zone as opposed to playing man. Again, I'm sure there's some breakdown stat somewhere for that, but I'm not smart enough to figure it out. But I would blitz the hell out of him. I would certainly bring Devin White. I would bring Winfield. I would bring different guys from time to time just to mix it up a little bit. The one thing I will say for sure is they cannot just go into this game with the exact same game plan that they did in the first two games, because if they do that with Todd Bowles' defense, it's just going to be an easy win, unfortunately. Now, maybe the Buccaneers can, hold serve and match them score for score, but I still would favor Drew Brees and that Peyton offense, even in a shootout. Number one, they're playing at home, and they're just a more experienced offense. Drew Brees and Sean Payton just know what they're doing. I still would put my money on Sean Payton out-coaching Todd Bowles, even if it goes to a shootout, or Sean Payton out-coaching Byron Leftwich on the offensive side of the ball. So we'll see what happens, but I just think they've got to mix it up. They've got to change things up, because if they come back and try and do exactly what they did the first two games, the game may be over by halftime.
Right. I've been racking my brain, Mark, with ways that the Bucs could create pressure, because to me, if you don't create pressure against the Saints, it's a slow death. You have to have a perfect day offensively, and you hope against a great defense, and you hope that they make an uncharacteristic mistake or two, and somewhere along the way, that's enough to get the advantage in the end, moving in your favor.
And they've done that in the playoffs. They've historically done that in the playoffs. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
Drew Brees, as great as he is, and statistically right up there with Tom Brady, and they go back and forth with most touchdowns, but Drew Brees has the most passing yards, I believe, or it's close. Bottom line is he's got one Super Bowl. The Saints, the last year against Minnesota, a couple years ago in that miracle throw to Diggs against Minnesota again. I mean, they're not a perfect team. Although I will say I think this is the best Saints team that there's been since that team won the Super Bowl back, like 150 years ago.
Most talented, probably, yeah.
Yeah, especially on the defensive side. I mean, that was kind of their Achilles heel. And we can talk about Drew Brees. There were a couple years where the Saints went 7-9 back-to-back. But Drew Brees was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL statistically, and it was the defense that let him down. So they've really built that defense, particularly the secondary and that defensive line. And you know what? The linebacking core is good. There's just not a weakness to attack. But again, Tom Brady is good enough to beat the best defenders if he has enough time. So the Buccaneers have to protect, and they just got to find a way. I think the Bears' game plan was very good to hold the Saints to 21 points yesterday. Again, and only getting one sack. Whatever the Bears did, I would do a lot of if I'm Todd Bowles.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like I said, I'm thinking about, okay, how do you get pressure in this game? Because like I said, I just don't think I don't think you can ask your guys, like last time they said, we're going to get pressure with 4, we're going to play zone coverage. We'll get to the coverage thing in a little bit. There's a lot of layers to the coverage thing. But for the pressure thing, which is really critical in this game, I mean, I'm just going to be honest. Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul are not better than, nor will they beat Teron Armstead and Ryan Ramczyk. So just find them matchups they can win. Right. Play both of them inside. I mean, I'm serious. I'd play both of those guys inside on any obvious passing down. Anytime you can get them in second and third and long. I know in second and long against the Saints, run's probably still an option. And so maybe you take a risk here and there, but I would play those guys inside and stand them up. And I would play guys like Sue and Golston on the outside. And I would, especially in pass obvious situations, 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, because those guys on the outside, all they have to do really is contain. I mean, and push the pocket a little bit. And if Brees gets outside the pocket once or twice on you, whatever. But he's not going to do that all game, and you can live that way. If he gets out, makes a play, all right, he makes a play, do it again. You know what I mean? That's the mentality in this game. You got to find the best matchups you possibly can. And I want Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul working against Cesar Ruiz and Anders Pete and those guys. That's where the weakness is for the Saints O-line. It's definitely not the tackle spots. And if you take your only two good pass rushers, really, no disrespect, Golston's doing all he can, so is Sue, but they're just not great pass rushers anymore. If you're, and Golston never was, but if you're taking those guys and you're putting them against their best two offensive linemen, you just haven't done enough as a coach. You haven't thought creatively enough. You haven't thought outside the box enough. And I know that's probably the biggest criticism with Todd Bowles, but honestly, this is where 38-3 can come back to help, to be honest, Mark. 38-3 is embarrassing. You cannot excuse away 38-3. You can't excuse away 4 straight losses to the Saints as the Bucs defensive coordinator. You can't excuse away giving up 27 points or more as a defense, 31 points or more as a team against the Saints. There's been a couple defensive touchdowns in there against the Saints and getting outscored 137-67 or something like that in 4 games. You can't excuse it away. You have to. There's such a history of losing there, and there's such a history of even getting dominated there in the most recent game that even with coaches that are really stubborn, I hope and I believe that losses like that make you look in the mirror. And I mean, you don't want to get embarrassed again. You watch that tape a couple more times. You come up with a couple more things you've never done before. I think it motivates you to go harder in a new direction than you typically would when you could say, if we just made this player, this play, like if they play the Chiefs again, I'm like, man, we were right there at the end, 3 points. Like
or the Bears game. That's exactly right. I wrote about it in the mailbag today, John, that it's not like those games came down to 1 or 2 plays. I mean, they were dominated literally in both games. Buccaneers got out to an early lead in that first game of the season, but at the end of the day, the Saints were controlling what was happening in that game, and in the second game it was just a disaster. So you can't try and do the same thing because, again, it wasn't just a matter of the ball bouncing the wrong way, and that's why you lost those games. You can say that about the Bears, you can say that about the Chiefs game, and you can say that about the Rams game, but the other 2 losses were just dominant performances where you were just outcoached and out-talented to a degree. When you look at matchups, and we talk about matchups all the time, the Saints offense versus the Bucs defense is a huge advantage for the Saints offense. The Buccaneers offense against the Saints defense, I would still give the advantage to the Buccaneers offense, but not certainly by the amount of advantage that I would give the Saints offense over the Bucs defense, if that makes any sense.
Right. No, I completely understand what you're saying. I think it's a good point. So good question. Anyway, the answer to the Drew question is layered because there's a lot going on. And the answer to the pressure question is even more layered because it's not simple to get pressure on New Orleans. Like you said, the ball's coming out quick. I need quick wins. I need to attack the A gaps. I need Drew Brees looking at pressure in his face, pressure off the edge. Just doesn't matter that much against the Saints. It just doesn't. The ball's not going to be held long enough. So I need pressure in his face that makes him pull the ball down, try and go somewhere else, look for a throwing lane, that kind of pressure. That's why having Devin White back is just absolutely massive for this game. Somebody asked
fundamentals too, before we get to the next question, fundamentals, they have to tackle well. They absolutely 100%. They can't, they have to be, you're going to get, the Saints are going to move the football. The Saints are going to score points. We know that, but don't give up, 20 yards after catch on things because you're taking bad angles and things like that. You've got to be fundamentally and technically sound this game over any game they're going to play the rest of the year if they were to advance.
Right. Somebody asked, Gronk going to be the 6th man again? He means in pass protection. And it's a good question. This was pretty funny, but Gronk actually ran 18 pass routes. Everybody, I don't think did he have a catch? I don't think he had a catch against Washington.
He had one target.
In the end zone, right.
In the end zone, yeah.
Great catch, by the way. Just not enough space back there. But 18 pass routes in the entire game and 11 pass blocking reps. So he really was. He was the extra offensive line. That's what he did. He stepped into a role that was totally selfless role, and he just said, "I'm going to pass protect." And he handled Chase Young.
And I would do the same thing because to me, the Saints' defensive line is as good, if not better. Certainly the production from the Saints has been better against the Buccaneers, and so that was the problem to me in that second game in particular. Even if you go back and watch that first game, Brady, while he didn't get sacked a ton in that first game, he just was not comfortable at times, due to the pass rush. And, again, it's not always about taking the quarterback down to the ground. If you make either of these two guys, because they're not running quarterbacks, they're not mobile guys, if you make them uncomfortable, that's when you can force them into some mistakes. But I hope Gronk is up for the challenge again. But I really hope that Donovan Smith, and you know what? When Chase Young ran off that field the other day against the Eagles in that last regular season game saying, I want Brady, he challenged Donovan Smith's manhood, not Tom Brady's manhood. Tom Brady doesn't care what Chase Young thinks. But I think Donovan Smith took it personal, and he played his ass off. And we asked Bruce about that today, and Bruce said absolutely he stepped up. And Bruce said, now we need him to do it again this week. We need him to do it again, back to back. I want to see it again. And if they do that, they'll have a chance. But if they can't keep Brady upright, then again, it's another Sunday night 38-3 or whatever it was final.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot has to go wrong for it to be that bad again, especially because of how well and consistently well the Bucs are playing. You know, let's just talk about their offense against Washington a little bit, Mark. I mean, this really was, especially going back and watching, it was a really great offensive performance. When you consider the opponent, I do think it was Brady's best game of the season because, you know, he obviously lit up, you know, Atlanta twice and when Detroit, and he's been playing out of his mind lately, especially, you know, but when you have everybody kind of on the same page finally a little bit, I mean, there were still some communication issues in this game, you know, but he just manages the game so freaking well, man. Like he never puts the ball in harm's way. There were 3 times on the first drive that could have been sacks against other quarterbacks. He threw the ball away, made plays on another down, got him 3 points out of a drive where I didn't think a lot of other pieces came together very well. Twice in the red zone, nobody even slightly open, doesn't force the ball, pressure gets through early, throws it away. You know, no chance for a scramble drill, throws it away, doesn't get it backed up out of field goal range, doesn't put the ball in harm's way on a throw, doesn't put the ball in harm's way, getting sacked in the pocket or anything like that, just doesn't do it. And so, you know, because of that, I think it gives the Bucs, again, he obviously didn't both games against the Saints so far. That was an error. Now, you know, that was a problem. Now, 5 interceptions against the Saints, you know, there was probably 2 of those definitely weren't his fault. The first one where Evans messed up the route, and then the first one against the Saints in the second game where it was the weird deflection off the screen that was poorly run. But then, you know, he's trying to make a play later and he throws one up and AB stops a route. The wide receiver coach tells us he should have kept going. And so you could argue maybe 3 of those aren't, you know, so it's not like he's been the problem per se in these turnovers, but those are the things that can't happen. And there's the things that stemmed from an offense that was out of sorts the last time that they played the Saints. I mean, AB coming in and messed up multiple routes. You know, one time when Brady just overthrew Gronk by a bit in the end zone, Brown's running like right next to him. Like, what are you doing? Like, he didn't know where he's supposed to be on the field. Right. There's just like a lot, you know, so if that dysfunction sorted out, and this is a team that's not, remember, Gronk drops a touchdown in the game against the Saints last time. Obviously they're down a lot at that point, but it's a play that could spark you. You know what I mean? After the strip sack of Breeze in that game, they have a chance and they don't get it done. And then Gronk dropped a first down conversion when they couldn't, you know, get the first down. And there were a lot of those things, I think, in this game that were just a little bit disjointed, and they went those 3 and outs, and the defense, literally every play for the Saints was a positive play. And so it was kind of a combination of a perfect storm. Now they can't have that flat start on offense, and I think it helps the defense if they don't have that. I don't think they're going to have that flat start on offense. So it moves everything kind of in the right direction percentages wise because of how much better the offense is playing now than it was playing before. So a lot of good questions about Mike Evans. What can we expect from Mike Evans? Marshawn Lattimore, this has always been a game where he struggled, although I don't necessarily think Lattimore, like, it's always a case of Lattimore. I think it could be a case of other guys being open. There's a lot of things kind of unpacked from this. But, yeah, Mike Evans against the Saints, it hasn't been his best team, Mark. You've watched this matchup for years. What do you think about Mike Evans and the potential of this matchup? And should the Bucs – I mean, they've obviously been rolling with Mike Evans lately. Does he continue to be the focal point? If the Saints take him away, can they? I mean, obviously they have weapons, but you know, is it enough to replace what a guy like Mike Evans does, who's just been? I mean, last 4 weeks have just been tearing up everybody in his path.
Yeah, I don't think you force it to Mike Evans in this game because Lattimore certainly has his number, and maybe in his head just a little bit. But I think Mike is a competitive guy too, and he wants to prove that he's better than his performances against Lattimore. Used to be Bradbury was the guy up in Carolina that gave Mike fits, and now it's turned into Lattimore. But hopefully, Mike can get something going early and gain a little bit of confidence. But the good news is in that first game there was no Antonio Brown, so they've got some other options. Chris Godwin. I think those 4 drops that he had the other night, that's just an anomaly. That's not the real Chris Godwin. Yeah, we're not going to see that again. Right. And they're going to be playing on that turf, man. This team loves to play on that fast turf. I mean, they're a team that can get down the field. The one thing I want to go back to the Brady real quick thing is, and maybe is the X factor as much as anything, is Brady's competitive nature, John. The fact that this guy does not. I mean, he knows what the record books say, and Tom can say, I don't care about records and this and that. Look, I mean, he's just a competitive guy. That's the reason he's still playing at the age 43. He does not want to lose to Drew Brees on national TV for the third time in a row. He just doesn't want that to be his legacy in his first year here in Tampa Bay. Hopefully Brees retires and goes elsewhere up in the broadcast booth next year, goes and plays with his kids, whatever he wants to do. But this might be the last chance that he gets to face this guy. And he doesn't want to go out as a 3-time loser in the same season. There's not many negative things when you look at Tom Brady's career, but that would be one I think that would kind of eat at him a little bit. So, maybe Gronk maybe Brady, plays with some crystals. He goes to one of those healers. I don't know. Something's got to happen, man. He's going to do everything in his power. Eat an extra TB12 meal. I don't know what he's going to do, but go get cupping, use a manscaper. I don't know. He's going to do something, though, to try and break that cycle. Hopefully it works, because I still think Tom Brady's a better quarterback than Drew Brees, regardless of what the stats say.
Right.
Look,
yeah.
Here's what I say. Does Drew Brees go to another team this year and have his team in the divisional playoffs? I guess it depends on the team, maybe. But I would say Tom Brady's success with the Buccaneers would be more impressive than if Drew Brees had left last year and went to a completely different team.
Oh yeah, there's not a lot of places Drew Brees could play, and especially without being exposed,
right? Like
he is this season. I mean, Drew Brees is an all-time great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, sure. I'm just saying this season. I mean, look at the guy just doesn't throw the ball on the field at all. When he does, it's not completed very often. So I mean, it's just
and
it's
I
just
talk
very
about
limited.
Brady being a competitive guy. You know what Drew Brees is too. He wants to be the guy that sends Tom Brady home, right?
I mean, this is it for Brees. This is probably it.
If this is it for Brees, then he wants to go out and he wants to get that Super Bowl. So it's going to be cool.
Right. It's going to be the storylines are they're so plentiful in this game, and like we said, Evans is one of them. The last 4 games against the Saints, these are his numbers: 3 targets back in the first game of 2019. These are all games under Arians. 3 targets, 0 catches, 0 yards, 0 anything. 8 targets in the second meeting last year. 4 catches, 69 yards, 0 touchdowns. And then this first week, remember, he's banged up in the first week of the season this year, but 4 targets, did draw 2 pass interference penalties in that game, but 4 targets, 1 catch, 2 yards, and a touchdown. So I actually think he was pretty effective for how banged up he was then in the second game. Again, I don't think it was necessarily Evans' fault, but they were up. They had 15 offensive plays and they were down 28-0. So at that point in time, he had 4 catches for 64 yards, but at that point in time, you know what I mean? It's like that was all after, all that was done after it was 28-0. And so, no touchdowns in that game either. So he is, the stat lines are totally pedestrian. I don't think it's that he's been like dominated on tape though in this game. And, again, people said that about Bradbury and maybe in the past. I'm sure you're right that it was in the past, but this year, I thought that was actually one of Brady should have hit him a couple times in that game. I thought he cooked up Bradbury pretty good, and Bradbury arguably had as good a year as any corner in the league. So I still am kind of bullish on Mike Evans in this game. I still think he can do some work. If they put Lattimore on him and that's how they want to play him, there's obviously going to be other guys open, but I really think that he's a guy that can make noise even in this game. Somebody mentioned and brought up, and I just want to talk about this because it's ridiculous. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson got 2 Bears wide receivers thrown out of games this season, and his own teammate, Michael Thomas, suspended. This guy must be like the greatest trash talker of all time. Somebody
Where
says
did he go to college at?
He's a Gator, baby.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that explains a lot of things right there.
Yeah, they throw shoes over there. So,
yes.
AB versus CGJ might just break out into a fist fight, right? Can AB match Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's aggressive intensity? Would love AB to humble that dude on a big stage. This is surprising to some people maybe, but AB is really not a hothead on the field. Like I've never seen him.
Right.
I'm trying to remember even over the years, obviously as a Pittsburgh guy, fan for years, and they covered the team for years. I can't remember really an incident where he even got into it. I mean, he's actually like on the field, like when they have him mic'd up and stuff, even like he doesn't talk trash. Like he's like super complimentary of other players. Like when he's playing against them, like telling them they're awesome and he loves their game. Like that's kind of his psychological warfare way. So I actually think Mike Evans would be way more likely to get into it with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. And I definitely think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is going to try to get into Mike Evans' head. And so is Lattimore. I mean, they Lattimore got hit with a penalty last time, but Evans could have easily gotten hit by a penalty against
bad
Sim
blood
the first
between
game.
them. Jameis Winston went after Lattimore a few years ago in a game. Nate Pitts, Mark, is that Barrett Ruud poster offer still on the table? I don't remember what the offer was. I just randomly spout things from time to time. I don't really pay attention to what I'm saying. So if you remind me what it is, if it has to do with money, then I guarantee you it's still on the table. But I don't know what it was. I don't know. Maybe it was a $50 super chat or something. Now, we haven't gotten the $100 super chat yet where I shave SR in my chest hair, but that's still coming. So if anybody wants to drop $100 in a one time, was it 100 or 200? I can't remember what
it was. I think it was 100. I think Scott would have a soul patch if that happened. I think.
Yeah, maybe
that was the deal.
You know what? I think I'm going to go 200 on that because I really, really don't want to take my shirt off on camera. And
200 is fine with me.
But I mean, $200 is $200. I mean, that'll get me a nice new camera so you guys can see all of the wrinkles in this 50 years. By the way, how's the playoff beard coming in, John?
It's coming along great.
Yeah,
it's coming along great. I'm like afraid to cut my hair with the Bucks winning right now.
Homeless guys are asking me if I need money when I go to the Publix lately. They're like, "You all right, man? You need something?" I'm good.
That's funny. Shaggy, I love it. Buccaneer Bruce with a $5 super chat. Buccaneer Bruce, thank you. You're always coming in clutch with the super chats, man. Buccaneer Bruce helping finance that new cameras for Pewter Report staff. Do you think these guys and coaches, these players, and coaches are intimidated physically and mentally, or one or the other? This is actually something I am a big believer in the psychology of the game. Like, I really think that it matters. But I think they're not at that point for these players for the Bucs. I think they're at the point where they're pissed about the last game and the way that it happened. I don't think now if they get down 21-0 early in the game, or if they get down 14-0 early in the game, even, do they start thinking about last time and they start being like, man, we can't solve these guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe. But to start the game, no, I don't think so. I think the Bucs right now are playing. And guess what, Mark? When I'm watching the tape of them against Washington, it was the nastiest, most physical, scrappiest, meanest I've seen them play this year. They were just, I mean, they looked like they were a bully for the first, like they have had glimpses of that, but I think the last 5 games have changed some things. Like, they get out there on offense, especially on offense, and defense. I think they're still finding their way for sure. I wouldn't, in the run game. I mean, those guys are like, they feel like they're going to dominate, but that has not been with receivers, the corners, they need to have that mentality, and it hasn't come, and the scheme's a big part of it. They don't allow the receivers to be physical in the scheme. But offensively, I think this team is starting to get on the field and expect to score every time that they get on the field. Now, can that be disrupted? Yeah, that can be disrupted, but it's getting a lot harder to disrupt it. Washington's a great team, a great front, and honestly, Scott, the Bucs just took it to them. You know, if they hadn't had those drops, there's at least another touchdown on the board. Yeah. That drive before the first half, Godwin dropped one over the middle that would have put him in Washington territory with a minute left. They could have scored on that drive. I just think
Vaughn fumbles.
Keyshawn Vaughn fumbles. Yes,
the 50. Yeah.
Yes, and they might have given up. You know, if Washington doesn't drop a bunch, they might have given up 30 points. But I think they'd have scored 45 or so against one of the best defenses in the NFL.
A defense that hadn't given up more than 20 points, in 7 games in a row. I mean,
I think more than that even. Yeah, or maybe it was 7 because the Lions game. Yeah, but. Yeah.
But, you say, is it in the Buccaneers' head yet? And you're right. After that second game, maybe. Like, if the Buccaneers had to go 2 weeks later, if the NFL had made the schedule where, they had to play those guys 2 out of 3 weeks like they did the Falcons after getting shellacked in that game on Sunday night, yes, I think there would have been a little bit of a carryover effect. But the fact is, it's been, 9 games since then, whatever it is. And this offense is completely different mentally wise, if that's the right word. I think where they were from that night at Raymond James Stadium when they got blown out. I think you're right. I think they just feel like there's nobody that can stop them if they play well, if they play their game. And scary thing is, John, is they still haven't hit their ceiling, I don't believe. I mean, there's still an off season hopefully to happen this year, a full training camp, preseason next year. And keeping, there's nobody on this offense that's as far as this. Well, I don't think there's anybody on this offense that's not going to be back next year. I mean, you could say Leonard Fournette or obviously McCoy. But as far as the main guys, I think they're going to find a way to keep, 95% of that offense, and they should be even better next year.
Yeah, you're right. I don't want to look at this as kind of like anything that happens is great. It's never great to lose in the playoffs, and it's not great to lose to a team 3 times. That you need to mentally be able to get over the hump. And that's why I think Buccaneer Bruce's question is a good one, because they need to be able to clear this hurdle. And if you start fast that is going to build confidence in your play throughout the rest of the game. You're going to start to believe. You can say you believe in your head and your heart and all that, but like once it actually starts happening, that belief takes on a new meaning, a new level, and that starts to exhibit itself greater and greater ways. So that's why this game's huge. But to your point, Mark, if they lose this game, I mean, I think it was a great season. I think they had a great run in it and everything like that. And I'm not going to go down this path too much, but I mean, this team's in position to run it back, and the rest of the NFC South is just not. I mean, the Packers, the Rams, and the Saints are in 3 of the worst cap positions in the league. They can all be good next year. The NFC is still going to be good. Seattle will still have Russell Wilson. Packers will still have Rodgers and Adams and pieces and everything, but there won't be a team as complete as the Bucs next year. And with Brady, that doesn't looks like he hasn't fallen off at all. We'll see how the offseason goes. Again, got to bring back Godwin and got to find some pass rushers. But they're in a great, look at the graph I tweeted out earlier today. The Bucs are one of the best teams in the league that also has a great cap position going into the offseason with the cap expected to be where it is, and that's shout out to all those guys, Greenberg, what he does with the cap. I mean, they have killed it. They have built in a great roster, and they have not spent money foolishly. And so they are in a position, especially if Brady doesn't fall off for the next year or two, to make a run this year. They've already done that, to make a run next year. And if Brady still wants to play, maybe the year after that, and they can keep the roster together. That's the best part, Mark. So
John,
this is just the beginning of some awesome stuff in Tampa Bay.
Would you say if they lost 3 in a row that you would consider that, I don't know, what's the right word, catastrophic?
That's probably a good word for it, Mark. Devastating, maybe.
Word. You know what else is catastrophic? If you come home one day and your refrigerator ice maker has blown out, or your hot water heater has blown out, and your floors are completely flooded, and you being a new homeowner, John, that's the last thing you need. What if you're on the second floor of a condo in an apartment complex and that happens? You know what you need? You need to make sure you're covered, and there's one place to do that. Briar Greaves Insurance Agency here in Tampa Bay. You can go to briargreavesinsurance.com, or you can give them a call. But Briar Greaves does a tremendous job of taking care of all of your needs in case there is a catastrophic event. Maybe it's life insurance, maybe it's homeowners insurance, maybe it's auto insurance, maybe it's you need to insure your pet turtle. I don't know. They've got millions of lines of insurance that they can find you, and there's not much that they won't be able to insure. But the only way that you can do that is by giving them a call. And I should have the phone number right here, John, but I don't have it. But people can go to briargreaves.com. You can also Google Briar Greaves and get that phone number. But call and talk to Sam, talk to Briar. They're huge Buccaneer fans. And, John, again, I've harped on it since the very beginning, since they joined us as a sponsor on the Pewter Report podcast. What I love about the fact is just the personal service that you get from these guys. I do insurance. I have other insurance companies that I've used in the past where you're just a number. Literally, they don't even ask you your name. They ask you for your account number or your policy number. That's what they know you as. When you call Briar Greaves, they're going to know you by your first name. They may call you 6 months from now, a year from now, saying, hey, is everything good? What can we do? Do you need to up this? Can we save you some money here and there? That's the kind of service you get from Briar Greaves that you're not going to get from the big insurance agencies or the nationwide companies. But anyway, briargreavesinsurance.com. Go check them out. And again, there's not a type of insurance that everybody listening to this needs some type of insurance, whether it's auto, home, life, or renter's insurance. Don't forget about renter's insurance. Again, if your neighbor upstairs, if their hot water heater goes out and it floods everything in your apartment, well, yes, their insurance pays for the repairs to the building, but it will not protect your contents. Give Briar Greaves a call today. Sam or Briar, briargreaves.com, proud sponsors of the Pewter Report podcast.
It's a really good point by a fan here, Mark. Who is it? It's Long Lost Glazer says, imagine if the Rams win Saturday and the Bucs win NFC Championship and Super Bowl in Tampa. Who would have thought of that at Thanksgiving? I honestly think the Rams have a shot at this thing. I really do, Mark. Green Bay has just not played that many good teams. And with the last good team they played the Saints and they played Tennessee. Those were the two teams with winning records that they beat this season. Green Bay did. And they played the Saints. That was way early in the season when the Saints were not anywhere close to what they are now. They were really struggling at that point in the season. And the Titans don't have a defense. They are horrendous defensively. They got killed in that game. And so I really think the Rams can pull this off. That defense is just nasty. I mean, it's just nasty. And nobody's figured out how to solve it yet. Like, Nobody has. And
That
so,
defense is
honestly,
better. That defense is playing better now, the Rams defense, than when they played Tampa Bay just a month ago.
oh yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
I watched that game on Saturday, and it was it was like the JV versus the varsity when you scrimmage, because the Seahawks had no answers for the interior. They had no. I mean, they were able to get one ball over the secondary's head to Metcalf, but the shutdown corners they have, the linebacker play, but really that front four, led by Aaron Donald, is just dominating, and that's the type of team that can give Green Bay fits. We saw the Buccaneers be dominating defensively in their big win against the Packers earlier this year. Don't know that the Buccaneers can duplicate that right now. I don't think they're as good of a defense now as they were then, but certainly we know that the Packers are a team that can be beat. And again, I go back, I like to look at trends in history, and the Packers had an opportunity last year. I mean, they had the best record in the NFC, home field advantage, I believe, through the playoffs. I think maybe the 49ers, but I'm pretty sure, I don't know. It seems like the 49ers went to Green Bay and won that game to go to the Super Bowl.
That might be right, yeah.
Because they were 13-3. I can't imagine. I mean, certainly the 49ers weren't 14-2.
Right.
But anyway, my point is they're they've had good records and been favorites before and lost. We'll see what happens. But that would be really, really awesome to have that home playoff game. Unfortunately, it won't be a packed Raymond James Stadium if that were to occur. But, man, that's certainly never happened before. No team that's hosted the Super Bowl has ever hosted the NFC or AFC Conference Championship game. They've hosted divisional games before, but I don't think they've ever made it to – there's never been a team that's been in the championship game before the Super Bowl in their home stadium.
And obviously never a team that's hosted the Super Bowl and then been in the Super Bowl too. And so like that, it becomes this, the percentages aren't in the Bucs' favor, and we'll just see. I mean, none of that actually has any impact on the outcome of games or whatever. But it is funny to think about that could be the case, that they're literally in position for that to be the case this year. So interesting stuff. Somebody asked, we kind of touched on Gronk as a blocker too, but Greg DeCruz, thanks so much for the super chat. Always appreciate that, buddy. Will Gronk be used more as a blocker now that Stinney is playing guard? We already talked a little bit about Gronk. I think Gronk probably will be used as a blocker, but I don't necessarily believe
you can't help out the guard from the tight end position. You know?
Right. There's not a lot of help that can be given.
There's not a lot of help there, but yeah,
you can help with line slides and stuff like that, though.
Yeah,
you can help the guard with that.
Right.
Slide him to the guy and things like that. So there's ways to help. But really Brady's the best answer for any help. If he's in the zone and the guys are open, then where they should be. Like he can, he might take a sack or two, but you can overcome it in this offense. That's the thing that they've proven over the last month plus, I think, right now. So it's about moving in the right direction. You're not going to score on every drive against the Saints. You're not. That's why your defense have to get some stops. They got to do it. You can't continue to put everything on the offense like it felt like they did. I mean, they got some stops against Washington, but again, it's Washington. It's going to be a different story against the Saints, obviously. Good. Dragon Lope jumps in, $5 super chat. Dragon Lope, appreciate you always. Bucks actually winning. I like this timeline. Y'all are talking about defensive fixes, but where the hell is Mike Edwards? Our D is missing him. Yeah, it's just never been a thing this season where Mike Edwards has really seen an uptick in snaps, except when guys have gone down with an injury. He just has kind of hovered right around that 7
who are you
to
taking
15.
off the field? I mean, Jordan Whitehead. You're not taking.
I'm taking a D lineman off the field and running my package, Mark.
Right. That's true. I forgot about your article last week or week before. Yeah. No, that was an interesting concept, and it'd be. John, your head would swell so big it wouldn't fit in the screen.
That's true.
If that game starts at 6:40, and that's what Todd Bowles runs out, we would have to just make John the only picture in the screen because your head would swell up. And you know what? I'd be happy to grease the door and squeeze you through because that'd be pretty impressive if they did that. Not gonna.
That'd be funny.
Not gonna happen, but it'd be pretty cool.
Right. I hope that there's something. That's the thing, Mark. I just. When you get crushed like that, you have to start thinking outside the box. And guess what? If they come out and it doesn't work, and the Saints run on every time it's out there, or if guys get tossed around, but you have to try something. You cannot
it's the end.
come out with a basic
a regular
gameplay.
Season game. It's one and done.
Yep.
If you lose, you have to try everything. And we've not seen really any. And they don't need to do a whole lot of trick plays offensively, but maybe there's some things in the playbook that they've been saving for a game like this. Who knows? A fake punt, a fake field goal, something like that. Don't leave any. It's like coaches that bring timeouts into halftime. I mean, it doesn't do you any good. If you've got something that you've been working on and planning all year, now's the time to do it, because the most important game is this game, because there's no guarantee there's another one.
Right. Absolutely right. And it's also a great and important game to bet on. If you want to win some money, go over to mybookie.ag. It's that time of year when divisions are decided, champions are crowned, and legends are born. It's time for the NFL playoffs. You've waited and watched all year as your team rose to the top or fell to the bottom, but now it's your turn to win big. You've heard the name just about everywhere, MyBookie. They're the industry's leading online sportsbook and casino, and it's not hard to understand why. With thousands of lines to bet on all your favorite sports, NFL, NBA, and college ball, check, and check, MMA and soccer, they've got all the latest odds, periods. Take advantage of MyBookie's prop builder and live in-game betting, where every single run, throw, and touchdown is another chance for you to put cash in your pocket. Visit their mobile-friendly website today and get your deposit matched halfway up to $1,000. Just use the promo code PEWTER, P-E-W-T-E-R. Pewter is the promo code when you make your first deposit. The best part is they make it simple with a variety of ways to deposit instantly, including credit card, bank transfer, Bitcoin, and more. Whether you're at home or on the go, on your laptop or your phone, it's not too late to make your New Year's resolution a resolution to get paid. Bet, win, and get paid at mybookie.ag. Again, that promo code is Pewter, P-E-W-T-E-R. Great stuff from our friends over at MyBookie. Great stuff from the fans. We got tons of questions pouring in.
Don't use my cookie, because I don't accept Bitcoin.
That's true.
To let you guys know. I do accept Confederate money, though, just to let you guys know.
Wow.
No, I'm kidding. I don't.
I was going to say, I don't even know that. Can somebody
legal tender.
I was going to say, I don't think it's legal.
No.
Can somebody convince Godwin to not eat corn on the cob on the sideline this week? Yeah, that was funny,
Come
man.
on, Jake. That's not nice.
Man, I'll tell you what, it was
one of the
funny.
best players for this team for the last 3 years, and you're going to beat him up for one game.
That's the thing.
Didn't hurt.
It's just like a larger sample size thing. I mean, in this game, it could have cost him, and it can't happen again. But there's no reason to think that it will. I mean, Chris Godwin, like I said, he dropped. I think Pro Football Focus had him, what they say, like 6 career drops, I think, and in like 2,700 snaps or something like that, and then 5 drops last night or the other night in 65 snaps. So just a bizarre game. Yeah, he did drop that touchdown. I looked at it on tape. I had missed the replay. I must have been tweeting or whatever. I missed the second replay.
No, that was NBC Sports, who had a horrible game.
They did, but they did actually show that replay.
Did they? Okay.
They did, yeah, because I watched it on the Game Pass.
John, this is the first time I saw the replay of Alex Kappa breaking his ankle, just to let you know.
Yeah, I know, and it was the all 22. I mean, they never showed the replay. Nope. They actually barely showed Kappa. I kind of pieced it together from shots. Like, it was terrible. It was horrible.
We didn't know what Ronald Jones' situation was until the Buccaneers PR staff tweeted it about midway through the first quarter.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad, real bad.
It was not a good show for them for sure. But yeah, Godwin, I think he's going to be a major part of what they do this week. I think he has to be. He's the guy, not only just because of his talent, but because of the way that they're moving him around. He's the Z in this offense. So he's in motion a lot before the snap. He's got leveraged releases. He's the guy, I guess, especially if they're going to put Lattimore on Mike Evans. He's got to take advantage of the other matchups. Yes. Now, the other corners are good. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's good, but he's beatable. PJ Williams is a solid player, but he's beatable. Janoris Jenkins, good player, but Scotty Miller beat him in the first game. He's beatable. So these guys, they got to win these matchups, and the Bucs are probably going to throw out of 12, and hopefully they use a lot of play action. It worked against the Saints last time. It's worked against Washington. It's worked for them all year. They're terrific in play action. Keep using it. Keep using it to your advantage. Keep keeping teams off balance, and you can have success offensively. And the other thing, Mark, sorry, didn't mean to insult you. The other thing, Mark, the middle of the field. The Bucs are suddenly, remember most of the season, we were like, it's outside the numbers down the field. It's in the flats. But the middle of it's maybe short middle of it, but the intermediate middle of the field has just not been an area of strength. And then that just out of the bye, complete switch. And I'm going to write about it this week, Bucs Briefing. I'm finishing out my content tonight for it, and it'll be out tomorrow morning. But one of the things they got to keep doing against the Saints, attack the middle of the field. And not that the Saints are bad there. They're not bad anywhere. They have a great linebacker in Demario Davis, great free safety in Marcus Williams, great smart, strong safety in Malcolm Jenkins, great corners. They're 4 deep out there. Chauncey Gardner's like this great run stuffer who can match up with tight ends. They have all the pieces. They have depth up front. They have a great defense. There's no getting around it. So do what you do, and you've got to be able to attack the middle zones, I think, and then find guys in the intermediate middle of the field. And the Bucs have done that with Brady the last 4 or 5 weeks now at this point. So they are rolling in that regard, and that's got to continue, I think, against New Orleans. So there's lots of things to look forward to, but it can be another big win or big week for Godwin. Does Brady eat a W if the Bucs win? How hilarious would that be?
That would be great.
I would probably still cringe, but it would also be funny to see Brady do something like that. You know what's Brady's way though, Mark, is if they were to win, he would make some like cryptic remark about it, but he wouldn't actually like, eat a W or anything, but he would make some remark about it, in one of his videos after,
right.
And kind of deadpan with that little smirk that he has, that would be his way. He wouldn't address it that directly, I think.
Yeah. No,
somebody wants to know about Urban Meyer in Jacksonville.
I don't know what's going on there. He wants $12 million, and if you're going to go to the NFL, as much as I hate to say this because it's Duval County, and Jacksonville's not my favorite city in this state, but $12 million, the most salary cap room, and the number 1 overall draft pick. I mean, you're not going to find really a better opportunity. I say that. You take a look at the Eagles, a team that was almost in the playoffs this year, a team that's, won a Super Bowl a few years ago that has a couple quarterbacks that Urban Meyer would love to probably work with. So, maybe that's a fit for him, but I mean, I don't think the Eagles are going to pay $12 million. But anyway, bottom line is I think it's possible if he decides to come back to the NFL. I don't know that he's going to be successful in the NFL. We'll see. He's left 2 college programs due to health reasons. I don't know why he thinks the NFL is going to be any less pressure. We'll see, but yeah, I don't know. To me, if I were a betting person at mybookie.ag, I would say Jacksonville is the favorite to land Urban Meyer if he decides to come back.
Right. This was a good point here. Hezo813 says Godwin will show up Sunday, no doubt. Love that shot they showed with Brady, arm around Godwin in the tunnel after the game. Still have the utmost confidence in him. Mark, there are things about Tom Brady's play, about Tom Brady and who he is in this organization that we haven't been able to quantify, and we haven't been close enough to because of COVID this season. And that just sucks for us kind of, but it's been transformational for this team. I didn't even see this shot. I'm glad Hezo brought it up. I don't even know of the image that he's talking about. I'll have to go look for it.
I think it's on Buccaneers.com.
Yeah. I mean, Pat McAfee was talking about it today on a show, and I love Pat McAfee. I think he's hilarious. And he was talking about just Brady and how the competitive fire that he has and how much of burn, I mean, he just ripped into Cam Brate, and Cam Brate had a great game. He ripped into him after Brate, that third down, they're driving 2-minute drill. They're in like a 3rd and 2 or something. And, he has an opportunity. He ducks under a sack. Tom Brady pulled a Carson Wentz Houdini and ducked under a sack and had an opportunity to make a play on a scramble drill. I mean, it was just an unbelievable play by Brady. And Cam Brate's kind of like trotting out his route and watching the pressure and thinking Brady's going to get sacked rather than staying alive and working back to the quarterback and getting open. And Brady doesn't throw the ball because the defender's in his hip pocket, kind of just trotting along with him. And Brady ends up taking the very short coverage sack from Montez Sweat. And so he goes down, and then he gets up and he's right at Brate to stay alive, like on the play. And Brate goes out and has a great game, and you can't miss those it's not like going back, I miss, you know what I mean? Like, no, he's directly telling you, and it's that kind of style. I think that in football, man, there are moments where that has to happen. I'm not saying every play should be ripping into somebody, but he's never going to say anything to me. If we asked him about that play, he would literally deflect the whole thing and blame himself. And, he's never going to put you on blast in that way, but he's going to tell you as a teammate, and he's going to pick you up as a teammate. And that's why all these guys rave about him. It's been transformational to the culture. We're not close enough to like have a firsthand view of that like we would in a normal with open locker room, or we'd be hearing quotes about that every single week, and asking questions about every single week. We have such a limited amount of time and availability to the players that we get to other things. But yeah, I think I'm just glad Hezo brought it up because it's a great point. We haven't talked about it enough, how it's just been totally different. I mean, to have that in Tampa Bay with the losing that they've had, when you looked at midseason, nobody thought they'd be where they are now and look like they look now. Well, I mean, a big part of that is Brady just continuing to work at it, continuing to make sure I have those attention to detail that I thought, again, like I said, the whole time. I think you can look at stats and say Brady didn't play great against those good teams. Again, he's the least of my concerns. He's the least of my concerns against the Saints. If the line does their job and the receivers catch the ball and they run the hots when they're supposed to, the Bucs offense is going to roll. I don't know what the defense is going to do. We'll talk about that on Wednesday, but I'm just not worried about Brady at all. Like he's not when people are like, oh, this is the most important, Brady has to play way better than last time. Like if everybody else plays better than last time and they were most of the issue, Brady's going to get the job done. Like there's no doubt in my mind, no, he's not a superhuman, but I think that, it's very important that the rest of the group plays with the cohesiveness and the attention to detail, the increased attention to detail. It's not perfect. It's not the Saints' well-oiled machine yet. It's not the way the Packers have looked yet, but they have had enough instances of that where I am pretty optimistic that the offense can get the job done, but it's going to be a different story with the Saints and the defense for sure.
I can't find the question now, John, but it was way earlier in the chat. Somebody asked, why don't you and I ever ask questions in the press conferences? And we do. But here's the deal. We know there's limited time, particularly when you're talking Bruce and Brady. And Scott Reynolds is the boss. So we, it's a respect thing. We know the not the chain of command, well, the chain of command here at Pew Report, obviously, but as far as we also know exactly the order of the media that they're going to go in. And if I raise my hand and John raises his hand, chances are only one of us are going to get a question in, and certainly we would rather it be Scott, because a lot of times Scott uses those questions, those answers in his Fab Five, whereas John and I may just be out of curiosity wanting to know an answer. Again, if this were a normal season where we're in the media room, there would be more questions asked, but because of there is more of a time constraint when it's done on Zoom, because they have to unmute you and go to thing. It's just not a quick flow thing. Like, the time is probably the same, but there's probably 5 questions less that we get in a Zoom interview than we would in a normal season when we're just on a Thursday afternoon with Bruce or something like that.
Right.
But John and I do ask questions from time to time. Sometimes Scott can't be on the calls if that's the case. And most of the time I'll jump on or John will jump on. And if Pew Report gets a second question, a lot of times it'll be John. Or John will ask Scott, hey, ask this question, because he knows that he's going to get called on. So, hey, I need the answer for this for what I'm working on. So ask the question. So it's a collaborative effort sometimes.
Right. Yeah. For me, it's done by seniority. The question, so I don't get to ask a question because I'm the new guy. I don't get to ask a question until all the people have been there longer than me, which is
till Ira Kaufman has asked for it.
Yeah.
John.
So
John,
I raise my hand sometimes,
John,
but I just don't get called on.
John, let me ask you a question.
John. That's right. Saying Bruce's name 100 times. So I do raise my hand sometimes, but I don't get called on. So a lot of the time I won't raise my hand, and I know Scott will get called on probably maybe twice because he's been 25 years. So I asked Scott that, like today, if anybody listened, the Taysom Hill, who plays Taysom Hill in practice, I asked Scott, hey, maybe, he asked that. So, there's a lot of that sometimes that happens. Scott does a great job of asking us if we need anything and stuff. So we usually get what we need, but it'll be a totally different story when it's open locker room and we just are in there. You'll be hearing from us plenty in those instances for sure. Somebody, I mean, I know there's talk about SMB. I see questions about SMB and stuff. We will get to a lot of those on Wednesday because there's a lot to unpack there for sure. Like I said, nothing's going to happen with them, but we can talk about how they can maybe. There's been some interesting things, like just out of nowhere going back to SMB. They said we're going to simplify things and keep him in the nickel, and then Jamel Dean got hurt, and SMB played horrible, and then Jamel Dean came back, and SMB's back to playing every down. I'm just not sure. So I need to ask him. I asked him out a little bit. I need to ask again. I was actually kind of waiting to see what would happen, but SMB played every snap, and now that Carlton was back, I didn't know what would happen, but SMB played every snap, and Jamel Dean didn't, and I don't think either of them are playing particularly well right now, but. Kamara will destroy David and White. Hasn't happened yet. I mean, Kamara's not been.
He really hasn't.
Kamara's not been the reason. Yeah, no. So I don't know whether that's good or bad. Maybe
Hill might destroy David and White. Let me ask you this, John, because we talked about this in our group chat earlier. When Taysom Hill comes in to run that package, who's more responsible for stopping him? It's got to be the linebackers, right? I mean, because he tends to run. He will run inside, but he tends to run on the outside of the tackles. So that's got to be your linebackers. Well, certainly your cornerbacks coming up and containing as well. Right. But I mean, that's where Devin White and Levante David, in my opinion, have to be really solid, because he's gotten, and again, I'd have to look at the stats, and you guys will probably do this before the Wednesday podcast, but I would say he's probably averaging 5-6 yards every time he's carried the ball against the Buccaneers. since he's kind of been running that wildcat from time to time. And, that's just too much. And you brought up a good point very early. It's not just Drew Brees you got to stop. It's so many things that this offense for the Saints is capable of doing that the Buccaneers need to be able to figure out a way to limit those. They can't stop everything, but they can't let everything work as well. They've got to be able to slow. If they can manage and not get dominated in one area. Again, the Bears didn't do anything. I mean, Drew Brees still threw for nearly 300 yards. They still had 385 yards of offense. It's not like the Bears shut them down. But again, it's scoring. I mean, it's allowing scoring, and the Bears only allowed 21 points. The one thing I want to say, and so you guys will talk about this too, the Buccaneers have to be better in the red zone. If they're going to win this game on Sunday, they can't kick 3 field goals. They're going to have to score touchdowns on those. They can't go field goal to touchdown with the Saints. The red zone defense has to be better for the Buccaneers, and the red zone offense has to be better for the Buccaneers. It wasn't good in the second Saints game, and it wasn't good really against the Washington football team on Saturday night.
Well, they were 1 of 5 in the red zone. I mean, in terms of converting possessions to touchdowns, it's bad, but it's also not indicative at all of who the Bucs were like the 6th best red zone offense this year, and they actually had like the most kneel downs in the red zone I think this season, and so they've had. Those count as red zone, take away. I don't know how that is possible in 2021 that we can't weed out those stats. But anyway, so they've been a great red zone team this year, and it did not happen last week. So percentages tell us that they'll swing back. If they can get in the red area, I think that they'll finish a lot better than they did. Washington actually played really well. I mean, the first couple of possessions down, they played really well. Godwin dropped the touchdown.
You talked about Brees throwing the ball away when it wasn't there in the red zone. And not Brees, Brady. He can't do that. He's got to take, I think, a few more chances in this game again, because field goals aren't going to beat the Saints. They're just not. I mean, I understand why he did it against Washington, because they don't have a potent offense, even though I think they threw for 306 yards in that game. But 3 is better than a turnover, and so I agree it's better than a turnover. But again, it's the end. I mean, this is it. This is for all the marbles, essentially. I mean, every game now you have to look at every game as the Super Bowl, as the potential last game of the year. So, and I think Brady's smart enough to know that he's a pretty savvy veteran, I would say. He's learning playoff football. He's doing pretty good.
Leads the league in tight window throws this season, so he's not afraid to pull that trigger for sure. But you're right. This is a game where you have to accept the fact that, and for Arians especially, I think it's the biggest for him. The players on the field, I don't think risk management comes into play as much. They're going to play. They're going to play. But for coaches, Bruce Arians has to understand if he has a 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 near midfield early in the game, and got to be aggressive. You got to go for it. Your defense is struggling right now, and your offense is clicking.
If the Saints drive, if you punt the ball and it's a touchback and it's they get the ball at the 20,
it's going to take them 2 plays
yards, or if they go 55 yards for a touchdown, does it really matter?
It doesn't. No. Shorter drive, you get the ball back on offense.
You get the ball back, exactly. Right.
So he's got to be aggressive, and it's been hit or miss with him in those situations this year. And if it comes down to a situation like that, it's going to be really important. Real quick before we log off, just want to run by Kamara's stats. Really, against Todd Bowles' defense, Kamara's not been the thing. 16 carries, 62 yards last year. 13 carries, 75 yards in the second meeting. That was the best he played. He had 10 catches in that game, but just 47 yards. 6 catches for 42 yards in the first meeting last year. And then this year, been even more pedestrian. 12 carries for 16 yards in the first meeting. Did have the touchdown. And then 5 carries for 50 or 5 catches for 51 yards. Again, at the touchdown, the short screen right down there in the red zone he scored on. But the most of that yardage was on that trick play when Peyton decided to run up the score on the last drive, or tried to, and he got Michael Thomas hurt. And then the second meeting, 9 carries, 40 yards. So decent average. And then he scored the short touchdown down inside the goal line, or inside the 10. And then he had 5 catches for 9 yards in the last game. So again, he's had a play here or there, but he has not been the factor for the Saints, and they've still dominated. So I don't know what that's. I don't know if that's good or that's bad, like I said, but they've done a good job on Kamara, and that'll definitely need to continue for sure. So we will have more stuff. Thank you, everybody who's jumping in the show. If you're listening here and you're not subscribed, go over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell in the corner, get the notifications when we go live. Pewter Report TV on YouTube. Give us a follow. We're getting up there in subscribers. We're trying to get to 3K by the end of this playoff run. We need that playoff run to go to the Super Bowl maybe to get there, but we are working our way up there. I know a ton of y'all listen and you don't subscribe. It doesn't do anything to you to subscribe, and it can help us a ton if you hit that subscribe button. You can hit that subscribe button and never watch us again, but it helps us. We hope you watch us again, obviously, but it helps us out if we get those subscription numbers up. So we appreciate y'all. We love y'all for tuning in all the time. Hit that subscribe button, help us out, and tell your friends and families. You guys have been awesome spreading the word and making sure you're in here every show. I was just telling Scott the other day, I was texting him, I was like, our fans are just unbelievable. Like, they're in every show. I mean, we were on 12-1 the other night in the morning after a Bucs playoff win, first one since the Super Bowl 2002. And we literally get up the next morning to check the numbers, and over 10,000 people had listened to the show on one of these formats, Twitter or Facebook or YouTube. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And since then, the listen numbers since then have even taken off even more. It's just crazy what we have. I mean, then again, that was a great show, but we've had tons of great shows since then. So the numbers are there. We just need, y'all hit those subscribe, tell your friends, tell your families, tell everybody this. It's the time. People are getting into the Bucs, buying into the Bucs. If you want more fans for the Bucs, you want that stadium sold out. Let's tell people. It starts with y'all, to be honest. And man, y'all are committed. I mean, the same people are in here every single show, and you're chatting away, and it's awesome. You just love the team. And so we love it. So, and the other thing you can do, download the Locker Room app. It's an awesome app. It's a social audio format. We're going to be going live on there. And on this Locker Room app, we did pregame before the Washington game. We did halftime before the Washington game. We're going to do pregame before the Saints game next Sunday. We're going to do halftime before the Saints game. And then on Tuesday, tomorrow, actually, in the afternoon, after my Bucs briefing column goes over and I've watched all the All-22, you can get on. If you get this Locker Room app and you follow Pewter Report, it's a free app. Get the Locker Room app, download it, and you can get on there. I'll send you like an invitation. You jump in, and on Locker Room, you can ask questions about the All-22. If you watched it, or just ask me what I saw from the All-22, and I'll walk you through everything that I saw, and it'll be like a film review with all of us, and you can ask whatever questions you want about players, or I've tried to take notes on everything. And so you can just chat with me kind of about that kind of stuff and just ask whatever you want. And for a while, we'll just go back and forth. And so it's an awesome social audio platform. We just launched on there. We've got like 30-some followers, 30-some people have jumped on there. It's a brand new app. It just started. This thing just started. And I think they have some really cool ideas. It is only on iOS, for the download. If you have an iPad or something like that, though, I mean, obviously you could do it on there. It's pretty sweet, though. So if you have iOS, they're working on the Android option, I believe, right now. But like I said, it's pretty brand new. So we're trying to be kind of on the cutting edge of all this. Us at Pewter Report, we're real trendy these days. We're trying to be on the cutting edge of everything. So Locker Room is the app. It's sweet. We've only done 2 shows on there, but we've been pumped about it. It's been awesome. So again, I'm
even wearing skinny jeans, trying to be trendy.
That's right.
That's not
Mark
true.
Cook wearing skinny jeans. Pewter Report can do anything.
I don't own any jeans. No.
Oh, wow. Don't even own any. Jeez, we need to talk about this.
No,
yeah, Terrence, you can steal your wife's iPad. That's a great idea. That's exactly right. Jump on there, download that Locker Room app, and just follow Pewter Report. It's super simple. It's free. Like I said, they do awesome stuff, and we're trying to get on the cutting edge of that, and it's been a lot of fun so far. So we're looking forward to it. So again, we'll be live Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Scott and I will be breaking down Saints versus Bucs in depth with the stats, the numbers, the tape, the game plans, everything we want to see. It's going to be awesome. And then Thursday we'll be on with a guest, talk more about that matchup and how teams can attack each other and things like that. And so it's going to be a ton of fun. It's going to be a great week on the podcast. We appreciate y'all listening to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.